What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Never Lag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi, joined by the man who fell in the pit, Zach. Zach, say hi.
Hi, everyone. I am saying this under my own free will. Well, I can't say will. Oh my god, this is this is like that one video clip of the girl who's dating Kanye saying "Uncut Gems."
I mean, I was Josh Safdie's muse when he wrote Uncut Gems.
Right.
This is my Uncut Gems moment.
Oh my goodness. I'm saying hi because I want to, not because you told me to.
Not because you told me to. You don't have someone here with a weapon.
Exactly. Right off
compelling
screen.
me. Yeah. Just wanted to put that
right.
rumor to bed.
Well, this is This Week in Gaming, the show where we bring you the news, the reviews, and of course the hot takes from the past week in video games. If you're all about it, you can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/neverlag. And if you have no money, it's no problem. You can support us completely for free right here on YouTube by watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, or listening wherever you get your podcasts from. And we appreciate you for it. Well, let's talk some games. This week in gaming, we have 6 stories to bring to you, starting with story number 1. Gotham Knights release date revealed somewhat unceremoniously over Twitter. But the tweet here, let's see, coming from Gotham Knights' Twitter account says, Gotham will always need its heroes. Suit up for an all-new adventure on 10/25/22. So October 25th this year. Presumably, this game will be out. Are you surprised? Are you excited about this game? How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I am looking forward to it. So, full transparency, I have this game on my Fantasy Critic Games, like our fantasy league. So I have an incentive. I have a horse in this race for this game to come out this year. No, I was expecting it to come out, and I'm pretty excited. I haven't played all of the Arkham games, but I've played a few of them over the years, and I've really enjoyed them. So this seems like more Arkham. I like that it's a little bit different in the sense that you're not, you're playing as other characters besides Batman. And I think there's a few other people in that universe that are interesting to play as, such as Nightwing, Batgirl, so forth. And then I think there's kind of the multiplayer co-op campaign modes, which sound interesting to me. So that mix of things, I think will be fun. It's not top of my list, but it's definitely something that's on my radar. I don't know if I'll be picking it up day one. I think it's going to depend on what else is out at the time, but I see myself dipping into this probably this year.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. October 25th could become a very busy part of the year. We just don't know yet, but this game looks pretty cool. I've merely dabbled in past Arkham games, but this one looks interesting. I like what I've seen from it so far. We haven't seen a ton, but I do like the fact that they've come out and said this is not a live service game, despite being multiplayer. And it's not even completely multiplayer. It's actually just a co-op game because there are 4 different characters or classes you can choose from, but you can only have, from what I've read, you can only have 2 players at a time. So you and one other person in co-op, or you can play solo. So for me, that speaks to me a little bit more. I don't always have 4 people I can hop on and play something with, right? And I think a lot of people don't. So the fact that it's just the 2-player co-op is cool. I think it'll be interesting, the fact that there are 4 different classes and you can only select 2 of them. Hopefully that works to the advantage of the game rather than just feeling like you're missing out on 2 additional characters at all times. But you kind of won the bet here. They were developing this alongside Suicide Squad, and there was this debate about like, when are these games coming out? Which one's getting pushed? Are they both getting pushed? And you bet on the side of Gotham Knights, and so far it looks like you're right in our very high stakes fantasy critic league.
A lot of money riding on this.
Yeah, so I may be eating those points here in October. We'll find out. Okay, with all release dates, there must also be a delay. Story number 2, to balance the universe, story number 2 is that Forspoken has been officially delayed. It has been delayed from its original date. It was supposed to come out May 25th, Now it's set for October 11th. I have a statement here from the developers of Forspoken. It says, "We have made the decision to move the release date of Forspoken to October 11th, 2022. Our vision for this exciting new IP is to deliver a game world and hero that gamers across the globe will want to experience for years to come. So getting it right is extremely important to us. To that end, during the next few months, we will focus all of our efforts on polishing the game and can't wait for you to experience Frey's journey this fall. Thank you for your understanding and continued support. We look forward to sharing more about Forspoken with you soon." So, how do you feel about this delay? I know this is a game you've been looking forward to a little bit more, perhaps, than I have.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite to give them a hard time for this, because I feel like I say all the time, like, I would rather them take more time to get the game in better shape before launching it. I think two of the recent games that I'm really loving and I can't wait to finish have been marred by launches with technical issues. So Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring, both great games, but there's been performance issues and some graphical issues for each of them, and that's always frustrating. It's if when a game is released, you want to be part of that initial zeitgeist, the initial like excitement. It's a bummer for it to come out and for you to perhaps pay for it or have pre-ordered it, and then to have to utilize the meager self-control that none of us really have to not play it for 3 to 6 months or more. So I'm glad that they're taking more time if they need it. There's also like the cynical part of me that's like, well, does this mean the game is not going to be as good as I hope? Maybe. My initial thought was like, well, if more games delayed, we'd have less Cyberpunks. And then I remembered Cyberpunk was delayed several times. So it's not necessarily like a given indicator either way. But I do think it's not a bad thing that they're taking more time inherently, because the game will have to be in better shape if they take an additional what is that, 5 or 6 months. So I'm happy about this. I think we'll talk a little bit more specifically about Forspoken later. We're going to talk about the PlayStation event and they show some more things about it. But in terms of the release date and what the developer is doing to make sure this game is released in a good state, I'm happy with it, because I feel like maybe I'm in the minority here, but I actually am looking forward to this game and I want it to be good.
Yeah, and like you said, the delay is not an insubstantial amount of time. It's enough where things can actually be done to the game. It's not like they delayed it a month or whatever, which, I mean, sure, there are cases where maybe delaying a month can help, but you kind of really hit on my sentiments, which are, what's that quote everyone always messes up all the time? A game released early is forever bad. A delayed game can eventually be good. There, I threw in my 2 cents for botching that quote, but the problem is that I'm completely jaded to that now, because, like you said, we've had so many games delayed that still came out bad, and so as much as I'm totally fine with delays, like, take your time, make the game how it needs to be, but it kind of feels like delays tend to get good press just for the sake of good press, and then we'll still release broken 6 months later, So I'd love to see delays actually impacting the state of a game on launch. That would mean a lot to me.
Yeah, I think beyond the good press too, though, is anytime a developer uses a delay for a given game, I feel like you get a certain allotment of delays. One, it seems to be fine for the most part. Two, all right.
If you don't use your one, what are you doing?
Right. If you don't use your one, you're missing out. But this scales based on the level of hype building for your game. The higher the hype, the more delays you can push. Cyberpunk did like 3, and they were able to get away with it. And then the game launched as an utter disaster. So they probably should have figured something out. But I think the key here is anytime a developer does this, it, I think, puts more pressure on the future launch date, which, if they're actually able to get the game in a good state is fine. If they're not, if they announced it way too early, or if they misjudge the amount of time it's going to take them to get the game in a good state, I think it has the kind of added effect of adding pressure to the later dates that they're trying to hit. So I feel like it's good, but can add problems later if they don't have their act together, or if they don't have good projections about how long it's going to take. And I'm sure that's difficult to accurately project some of these things. Like, I work in software development, and there's a lot of things you can find along the way, but I think the better studios are about accurately projecting things or giving themselves enough time, the less we're going to
Yeah.
have the cyberpunk issues at the end where we've had multiple delays and then it's still a train wreck.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we live in a world where there's so many variables and delays are inevitable, but I would love to also live in a world where I could take release dates seriously. um, so anyways, I do think part of
How
it's just the human
idealistic.
element.
How
I know, right?
idealistic.
I know. Part of it's just the human element of like, we inherently, I'll be there in 10 minutes when it's 10 minutes is like on the short end, right? And inevitably you'll be there 15 to 20 minutes later, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the same with these games. So I hope this game hits on October 11th. I hope it comes out in a polished state, and I think this is overall good news.
And hopefully we can remove the human element of games.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Yeah,
wouldn't that be nice?
Who needs human elements and things? May felt a little early to me based on what we'd seen of this. So I think October makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
so
I totally agree.
All right. Story number 3, we have a review roundup for Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok DLC. Currently, it is sitting at a Metacritic of 74. It's on OpenCritic at an average of 76. And let me go ahead and pull up a couple reviews. Review snippets here.
Yeah.
We've got
glad this isn't on my fantasy
I know, yeah.
league.
Yeah, it's not doing too great, but Push Square gave it a 70. They said Dawn of Ragnarok does enough to satisfy by the time that the credits roll. But if you're burnt out on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there isn't much here that'll reignite your interest. The mythological angle is well played, the fantastical setting is cool, and Odin makes for an intriguing lead. But after a year of DLC and updates, Valhalla's gameplay loop is wearing a bit thin. IGN gave it a 60. And they said a fantastical setting and solid story can't disguise the fact that Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok has us running through the same motions as the main game a year and a half later. So, not stellar reviews here.
I can't say I'm funny. Surprised. Like when they're talking about the gameplay loop for Valhalla is wearing thin. I know some people liked it, so I'm not bashing that. But for me, like I felt like I was kind of bored with the gameplay loop after like 5 hours of the base game. I don't know what it was, but the mix of things, it felt pretty stale. So I can imagine if this is the setting does sound cooler than the original setting to me, but yeah, I'm kind of not surprised by this.
Yeah, I was actually looking forward to this one. And eventually I may pick it up, but I was actually put away from it because it is not standalone. And I did not purchase Valhalla. So I did not feel the urge to go and buy everything just to play this game. But yeah, it kind of feels like we're at a point with Assassin's Creed once again where every time one comes out or a DLC comes out, everyone's like, it's all right, but it's just more of this, it's just more of it. If you like it, here's an obscenely large amount more of it. So I don't know. My favorite one I played, I didn't play the old ones, but I really loved Origins. I thought they hit something special with ancient Egypt, and it just felt very immersive, and it hadn't been fully boiled down to their kind of live service model that they fell into with Odyssey. I know some people like Odyssey the best, but for me it was Origins, and I feel like they kind of lost their way a little bit after that, and we're getting more and more kind of watered down as we go. So we'll see if they're able to shake things up and get people reignited for the Assassin's Creed series coming up here with whatever's next. Story number 4 is our Sony State of Play recap, which took place on Wednesday. What was Wednesday?
The 9th of March.
Yep, Wednesday the 9th, Sony State of Play. So we're going to run through this. I guess I'll just kind of run through this, and I'll stop me or you stop me if there's anything we want to stop for.
Sounds good. There's a lot of little things to this. So.
Yeah. So they kicked off the State of Play with an announcement of a new game coming to PS4 and PS5. It's a new IP from Capcom called Exoprimal, and it has robots finding dinosaurs. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
Oh, I see here you put Dino Crisis. Yeah, a lot of people thought that's what it
Mhm.
was, but it was not meant to be. It doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look like something I'll probably pick up, but
It looks like
who
the type of
knows?
thing if they add it as a free game on like the PlayStation monthly, whatever that's called, the monthly free game that you get.
Whatever that's called.
What? Yes, you know what I'm talking about. If it's like one of those free games, I could see myself jumping in and trying it. I mean, I love dinosaurs. Who doesn't? I guess. But robots fighting dinosaurs on paper sounds cool. But something about the visuals they showed just kind of felt a little like middling. It was like, oh, this seems kind of
Yeah.
cool, kind of okay. I'm not super hyped about it. I think, yeah, a lot of people were hoping for Dino Crisis. And so I think the fact that it was not that has a lot of people disappointed. So this seems less a survival horror akin to Dino Crisis and more like an over the top action game where you're in a city, you're in a robot Iron Man or Anthem type suit, and you're punching a
Lots of
Velociraptor or
Anthem
T-Rex
vibes
in the
for
head.
sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if as we get closer it can impress us. Next was a Ghostwire Tokyo brand new trailer. We got to see a little bit more of it. It's looking pretty good. It comes out this month, right?
Yep. March 25th.
Yeah, March 25th. So I mean, I can't imagine we need to see more of this. I think they've shown off quite a bit. This might have been the last hurrah for this. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see the kind of reception it gets when it comes out. We're nearing the home stretch for that game. Um, then we had Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin, and a new demo available. That's the game that is Final Fantasy, but kind of being made in the Dark Souls formula from the people who made Neo, and is all about chaos. So I don't know. Are you interested in this one? Maybe not. Maybe not quite
Eh,
your style.
I don't know. Like I like Final Fantasy is hit and miss for me. I like it generally, but not all of them work for me. Souls games, I feel like everything is now like, oh, it's like this, but Dark Souls. That's like the comparison of
Yeah,
the past 6 years now. Um, Although it
that
sounds
or
like this
Breath of the
game is,
Wild,
or Breath of the Wild. Uh,
right?
yeah. So Elden Ring is the best because it's
There you
both.
go.
It's all of that, but
Exactly.
um, except it actually fits for Elden Ring. But yeah, with this, I don't know. I have enough games on my plate that I'm not super interested in this. If I'm going to go Final Fantasy, I'm more interested in something like Final Fantasy 16, which we still don't know exactly when that's going to fall. Or perhaps Forspoken is a Square Enix game. Like if I'm interested in Final Fantasy, I'm going to look in a different direction, I think. And if I want a Souls game, I'm currently playing Elden Ring, and I have a feeling this is going to take me 6 months plus to finish because of how
Plus the
massive
ones
it
you
is.
haven't finished that are actually from
Plus
FromSoft.
all
So
of the other FromSoft games. So probably not
yeah,
something I'm going to be prioritizing anytime soon. But if you like Final Fantasy, if Final Fantasy Origin mixed with like Souls difficulty sounds good, then maybe check it out.
yeah. It's funny you say that. I if I want to play Final Fantasy, I'll go a different direction. If I want to play a Souls like, I'll go a different direction. I'm kind of curious to see the Venn diagram of like who this game is for. Is it mostly Souls fans or is it mostly Final Fantasy fans? Like,
Yeah.
I'm curious the split there. It is being made by the people who made Neo, so it does have that going for it, and that
Mm-hmm.
inherently makes the Souls like comparison a little bit stickier. So it is out. Oh wow, that's out way sooner than I thought. Next
This coming
Tuesday,
Tuesday. Yeah.
yeah, March 15th. So we'll know sooner than later. Then we got another look, more extended look than I think we've had at Forspoken. More
Yep.
gameplay.
Woo.
We already mentioned the delay, and yeah, I mean this was probably. I guess I didn't time it. It felt like 2 or 3 minutes worth of gameplay,
Yeah, it was more.
maybe 2 minutes.
It wasn't like an extended showcase. It wasn't quite as much as I would like to see, but it was more, and it looks
Lots of
cool.
cuts. Lots of cuts.
Lots of
Yeah.
cuts, and it's hard. It's hard to get a really strong sense of like the actual gameplay loop. Any good game, like
Yeah.
you run about, you kill
Exactly.
some enemies, you loot the enemies, you go back, you craft your item, you upgrade your gear, whatever. Like the loop system is in a given game. I would like to see a little bit more of that, like in continuity of like, here's someone actually going through a few different tasks, what it's
Hmm.
going to feel like when I spend 15-20 minutes playing the game versus here's some random cuts of things happening. That being said, the things happening
Yeah.
looked pretty dang cool in my opinion. So I'm still excited for this one.
I would have to agree with you. I think Forspoken has very much underwhelmed me to this point, but this gameplay um, trailer that they showed off, I thought was by far their best showing for this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it had some pretty cool moments that kind of made me look twice at it. If this game were coming out May 25th still, I would certainly be a little wary that we didn't see more extended gameplay. Like, what does it
Yeah.
look like to sit down and play this game for 5 minutes straight?
Right.
You know, uncut. We still don't know that. We don't know what it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be like to actually play this game. But now with the delay, hopefully we'll get. I'm sure we'll get another deeper look as we get a little bit closer. So
Yeah.
the real question is: should I, with this delay and this new trailer, should I now be worried that you also have Forspoken in our Fantasy Critic League?
I hope so. I hope
Because I
so. I
feel
mean,
like a little bit.
it looks here's the thing. My guess is that I'm gonna guess this is gonna get in the low 80s. I think it's gonna do fairly well. I think people are gonna like it. I think it's gonna have some issues, and I think that's gonna give it kind of that range. I don't think this is gonna be high 80s or 90s. I would love it if it is. Like, my hope is that this, like, I always hope that games I'm interested in are gonna be amazing, right? But my guess is it's gonna be kind of low 80s Metacritic score. But the fight scenes looked awesome. The fantasy creatures were big. They were epic. There's dragons. There's all sorts of other creatures. The combat, like the traversal is like kinetic and very, it's like magical parkour almost. She's like leaping through the air and running across the world and flipping and, dexterously going throughout the air. And there's particle effects as she's using all these different powers. It looks pretty neat. The world looks cool. I know people are kind of not sure how they feel about her, Frey, as a protagonist. Some feel maybe she seems like she could be a little bit annoying, like if the vibe of the character. I can't really tell yet. I can't tell how good the story is going to be, but I feel like the world and the combat looks awesome, and I'm hopeful that the story will be surprising and delightful, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, this trailer and the delay have me a little bit more nervous. So, for a little context, I counterpicked this game in our league, and that means that whatever it gets above 70, I get negative, right? Those points. So I'm a little bit concerned. If it hits 80
Yeah.
on the nose, I'll call it a wash because that's what happened with Sifu.
I was going
So
to say I foolishly counterpicked Sifu on your list because I knew
no,
nothing
I
about
think you
it.
got away fine. I feel like that should have gotten more than an 80. But
That's
anyways, I
true.
digress.
That probably deserves higher than an 80,
Yeah,
but
I felt
still.
like it did. But
Yeah.
what can you do? Back to news that's not related to our fantasy league. After Forspoken, let's see, we had a few here. Gundam Evolution Western release confirmed with a network test coming. TMNT, the Cowabunga collection announcement. And then we had Gigabash, which is a brawler coming to PS4 and PS5 sometime this year.
Kind of excited
Jojo's,
about I want to pause
yeah,
real quick on Gigabash.
yeah, go
Just a
for it.
little. Again, this is another one. I would love it as like a free PS5 game that's included in the subscription, or if I could get this, fairly cheap, uh, under $20 maybe. I love big monsters. I've played some other like Godzilla type brawlers in the past. Those are really fun too, with like other people who enjoy those things. My dad and brothers play those sometimes, have enjoyed those sometimes. So I'm kind of excited for that. I don't think that it's a standout, but is a nice little thing thrown into the mix that actually made me kind of happy.
Yeah, sometimes you need those. Um, Next, we had JoJo's All Star Battle Royale. Right? It is Royale. Just says R there. Did we clip that?
I think that was clipped. I believe it is Royale.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had Trek to Yomi, a new trailer, which we first had unveiled a couple months ago. And that one looks really cool, I think. It looks like Ghost of Tsushima 2D black and white, right? So, yeah, I'm excited about this one. It actually comes out this spring. We still didn't get a solid release date on that, which is interesting how close we are to spring, but playing that one close to the vest, it seems.
Yeah, Trek to Yomi, it doesn't call out to me as much, but I mean, it looks beautiful, and it's, it does look like a samurai film. I totally get why people are hyped about that, and hopefully that's really good. JoJo's All-Star Battle, I think that's a very specific audience. It's not my thing, but I know for people who like the anime or the manga, that should be fun.
Yep, there you go. Next was what I would probably consider to be the highlight of the state of play, which was we saw Returnal pop up,
Yeah.
and we are getting a free update. Um, let's see, coming March 22nd, which will add co-op, 2-player co-op, as well as a new survival mode where you're ascending some sort of tower, um, continuing the roguelike experience of the game. Uh, I mean, what did you think about this? I know you never finished Returnal. It didn't quite work for your how you play games, so I can't imagine this is really calling out to you.
Yeah, I mean, Returnal's interesting because aesthetically, it definitely calls out to me. Like, it's a beautiful game. The dark sci-fi atmosphere and like the kind of uh, horror like creatures that you have to fight against in that game are super neat. But the gameplay loop itself doesn't click for me. Primarily, like having kids and stuff, sitting down and doing multiple hour runs where it's all on the line and you go back to the very beginning, it's just a recipe for madness for me right now. I'm not amazing at video games anyway, so it's like that mix is pretty tough for me. Maybe at some point in the future, you
Did
know,
they ever add saves to this game?
I don't know if they did. They didn't have them when
I
I
can't
played, but
recall
it's
if they
been a
did.
year almost. So if they add save some save points, I'll be more likely to come back and check this out. I mean, my issue with Returnal is that I think the way it was implemented initially is just I'm not in the demographic that works for, but I understand that this game is awesome. It looks really cool. The shooting and the mechanics otherwise were pretty fun. So I'm thrilled for everyone. I kind of hope to go back and dabble with it at some point in the future, but it's not high on my list. So getting a free update versus like a paid DLC is fantastic. Like I forget the name of the studio who did Returnal, but good on them. Um, 2-player campaign co-op. I could see us jumping into this at some point. Like that sounds pretty fun to me, honestly. Um, and yeah, like the survival going up this horrible tower sounds like more Returnal in another form. So I think this is cool. I definitely think this was the highlight, even if it's not like top of my list to check out.
Yeah, Housemark, the newly
Housemark,
acquired
that's right.
Sony first-party studio, Housemark. So I have mixed feelings on Returnal. At first I was like, I'm not going back for this, but they kind of got me with that free part. I was like, I might download this. We'll see. But yeah, I'm kind of in the camp as well where I really enjoyed the atmosphere and theming of this game. Um, so up my alley, just incredibly sci-fi. Um, and the gameplay is so frenetic and very polished feeling, very quick paced. It's fun to play. They really did nail the. This is a studio that has kind of uh, made their living doing arcade type games, and they somehow managed to bring that arcade feeling of like one more try, putting a quarter in the machine, to 20. When did this come out? 2021. Yeah, 2021. They brought that feeling to like a 3D action shooter, um, which is pretty impressive. I really enjoyed playing this game. I feel like I would have loved this game way more if it weren't a roguelike. I just feel like
Yeah.
it's not any better for its roguelike elements. Um, you know, I think it can do well with the roguelike. Like I almost wish the base game were a single player campaign, and then they were coming out now with this tower that's like a horde mode roguelike. Like I think that
Right.
would have worked better. The whole thing being roguelike to me took
Or that
away
you could
from the experience.
or that you could have a roguelike mode or a campaign mode with some save
Yeah.
points, even if your save
Yeah.
points are not crazy frequent. Because yeah, that's my big issue. Like the moment to moment gameplay of Returnal, I really actually enjoyed, but the larger issue of like me getting an hour in, and then like my daughter is now awake from her nap, and my other daughter needs help with her homework, and then the dogs are going crazy, and I die, and then I'm frustrated, and it makes it harder to get back into the game. Those are the bigger issues for me, and I realize it's not necessarily the game's
Yeah.
problem.
You're such an
I'm
old
just
man.
exactly. So, um, give me an easy mode where the game plays itself. No, I'm just kidding. But give me a couple
Give
save
me an
points.
autopilot mode.
Give me a campaign mode with save points, and I am back into Returnal. Like I would
There
actually
you go.
prioritize it much higher if that was available.
Give me a Returnal mode where I turn it on my phone and then it just in the background accumulates money and beats the game, like one of those games. I forget what they're called.
Give me a
Um,
Returnal with microtransactions where I'm just kidding.
and
I'm just kidding.
NFTs. Oh god.
And NFTs.
Um,
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, for people who really dug Returnal, you're getting some more of it. I kind of did dig it, and I might be back in for a little bit. I'm curious to see how the co-op works. I feel like this game, it's hard to imagine co-op working well, but I maybe it does. So I'm curious to find out. We'll find out pretty soon here. After that, we had, um, oh man, I don't recall this. How do you even say that? The DioField Chronicle or
It's
Dio?
either DioField or DioField. I actually don't know. Um,
Okay, new
yeah,
strategy
I don't.
RPG from Square Enix. Oh, that's right. These were the final two announcements that
Right.
they. Okay,
This one's like
and then
the
this.
3D strategy game, which,
Yeah,
other than the fact that that's kind of an interesting and weird mix, did not call out to me at all personally.
yeah, not quite my style. And then finally, to conclude the state of play, we had the Valkyrie Elysium announcement coming to PS4, PS5 sometime in 2022. Um, let's see. Yeah, it's action combat, sword, magic, fantasy creatures. Did this one call out to you in any way?
You know what's so funny about those descriptors? Like, oh, it's action. There's magical combat with swords and fantasy creatures. I think I said something pretty similar about Forspoken, and for some reason that one really appeals to me, whereas this one kind of, I don't know, it doesn't call out to me a
Yeah,
whole lot. Like, it looked very, very meh to me. I feel like they didn't show enough of it,
well, it's
or
all
the
in the
right.
presentation, right?
They didn't show the right things about it. It didn't look super interesting to me, and I have to say, what an underwhelming note to end on.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of want to, before we wrap up the state of play recap here, what are your thoughts on the state of play in general, state of plays as a concept, where we're at with them right now, how this one was laid out, anything that you have that comes to mind? Because I have a few, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Um, as a state of play, I think this was a somewhat weak entry. Um, I hesitate to call it like a horrible entry, because I do think there are a lot of little things there, and there were multiple. I guess Returnal is, you could maybe say, like, I wouldn't quite call it big, but it's like a medium sized thing that's good. There were some good things in this, but it feels underwhelming. It feels like it was missing something. It just feels like questionable timing. Like, I feel like, from the philosophical standpoint about what is a state of play, we should be thinking
Let's
about,
get
like,
deep here.
let's let's get down to the nitty gritty. No, I just mean, like, the whole point of this is to get people really excited about what's going on in the world of PlayStation. And this felt like kind of a scattershot. I realize a lot of these were like things coming from Japanese studios, which I think that's fine, but it just felt like there wasn't enough there to feel exciting in the macro. And so what I think the problem is, the expectation going into these events is we're going to see the new exciting things coming from PlayStation and Sony and all of the various developers. Coming out of this, it felt kind of like a lot of little things, one or two things I'm interested in, but I'm not super hyped for the PlayStation roadmap. And I think they failed that singular goal of, like, getting us hyped for the. This is probably somewhat subjective, but a lot of the discourse I've seen online, it seems like this seems to be a general sentiment that there wasn't enough substance to this. So I feel like, previous state of plays have kind of been all over the place. I don't feel like PlayStation's very consistent. I wish they would get some consistency and maybe define, like, if they have a state of play in a showcase,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's define what these things are supposed to be. Like, let's say the showcase is the big games. We're going to get into more of the meat. This is the exciting event. And then the state of play is a little event. Check it out if you're really interested, or, maybe that's what they're going for, but I don't think they're very clear about what they're trying to do, and they're not consistent. And so it makes it hard to know and moderate your expectations. And so I think people are inevitably frustrated.
Yeah. So let me try and voice my thoughts succinctly, which I've never done in my life. But um, to be fair, they did come out and kind of say what this was, right? They moderated expectations going into this. They said we're going to take a look at some of our Japanese developers, and that's pretty much it. A few other things. Um, so to come into this and to expect we're going to get God of War release date, or we're going to get Sly Cooper announcements, like, that wasn't going to happen based on what they said.
That's
But
true.
I do think they've done a terrible job of, like, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. They haven't defined what these are. And I came out of this state of play finally after what, two years we've been doing this. I'm finally at the point where I now know not to get excited about state of play. State of play tends to be And here's another example of why they need to define these things. State of play can mean two things. It can mean we're focusing on one game that's coming out very soon for 20 minutes, or we're doing 20 minutes of mostly games you don't really care about. It's one of those two things, right? And the former, kind of exciting, right? A state of play focused on Ghost of Tsushima coming out later this month, kind of interesting. But they just haven't defined these things, and we shouldn't have to get out a big board with yarn and put dots all over it and find the outliers and figure out, okay, what is a state of play? What is a showcase? I just don't know why they can't come out and say that this is what this show does. This is what this show does. After 2 years, I think we've got a pretty good idea of it at this point. But like you said, there is a lack of consistency there, which no matter how much they try to moderate our expectations, with that inconsistency, it's just hard as especially the consumers at large to not expect something more. And if you came to me and said, okay, we're going to do a state of play, our headliner is Forspoken DLC, I would have been like, why don't we wait and get something a little bigger or something, or even restructure the show. Why is Forspoken in the middle here and we ended on these two announcements from Square Enix that quite frankly are not that broad of an appeal? Like, it felt like a dud to end the show on. So just kind of a lot of weird decisions, a lot of misses, and a lack of
Forspoken and
consistent...
Returnal should have been the things at the end.
Yeah.
Or maybe book ending it or something, but it was a strange progression through the thing. I agree.
So yeah, for me, I am officially like, you tell me there's a state of play coming up, I might watch it, I might not at this point. I'll catch recap later. Like, I'm not going to buy out time to watch your state of plays anymore, because you've proven that they're not, you're not going to really show anything too terribly exciting at them. And at the end of the day, this wasn't a roadmap, right? For those of us all still, that's the other problem, is that there's a lack of communication. We're all waiting for the roadmap from Sony. What's next? Right. We know God of War is coming, but what else is coming? We got
when
nothing.
I say that, I know this isn't the roadmap, but I think that's the broader problem, is not understanding the roadmap, not understanding Sony's priorities and like some of the big milestones. I guess we know a few of them, but not having a good sense of that. You're going to go into every single event with that ambiguity and uncertainty. And then all of your expectations are inevitably going to be out of line because you don't really know what you're supposed to expect. So, I know there's good things on the horizon generally with Sony. It was cool to see certain parts of the state of play. I wish they'd put some more thought into it so that these could either be really compelling and exciting, or better understand what some of these different shows are, so when you should tune in or not. It feels like they're not putting a lot of effort into being intentional about how they structure and disseminate information about what they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think a lot of this could be cleared up with just some better communication. Like, let's say Sony are planning to have a full showcase roadmap in June, right? I understand things change, delays happen, but what if you came out and said, hey, our intention, we are preparing to have a full blowout showcase in June. This is our state of play. We just want to get, some announcements out here. I think that would go a long way for people, and they would not be so harsh on a state of play like this. But the fact is, we're still waiting for so much information we don't have. It's hard not to take it out on the state of play. So anyways, there were a few things here that were of interest, and no doubt probably everyone was able to find at least one thing they can look forward to from Sony, and hopefully we'll hear more soon. Story number 5, we have our fan favorite segment, Patch Watch, where once again we get to take a look. I forgot the jingle. Patch Watch, something like that.
Yeah, I feel like we got to be careful not to infringe on other jingles, so we might have to do some more investigation. How about this?
There you go, Patch Watch. Perfect.
We should be in the clear with that one.
Yep. We're back at Horizon Forbidden West. We're frequenting this part of Twitter.
This is a weekly affair at this point.
Oh my goodness, it's a weekly bang your head against the wall affair. Patch 1.07. Another very, very long list of issues that have been fixed, but notably known issues that have still not been fixed. They start off the patch by saying, we are currently looking into several issues reported by the community. Please note that these issues are not yet fixed in this patch, but our teams are investigating them with high priority. Not the least of which is, in this patch, the team have made several tweaks. Oh, I'm sorry, they did make a tweak here. Let me recalibrate here. Um, let's see here. In this patch, the team have made several tweaks to vegetation to improve image quality in the favor performance mode. Please let us know your feedback. The team will continue to investigate reported graphical issues regarding shimmering, sharpening, and screen saturation. So
I just
they
love that
haven't.
the short version of that is we made the veggies better, but can you check the veggies and let us know if they're better?
Yeah, and I have a comment on that. But so the cliff notes are the um, the issues at large with performance mode are still there. They have not been fixed. They apparently made some tweaks. We don't know what they are to the vegetation, which are the most egregious offenders in performance mode and even in resolution mode to some extent. The foliage just doesn't quite look right. Um, but anyways, I booted this up earlier this morning just to take a look. The sentiment on Twitter was that the foliage or the vegetation, as they put it, looks no different. As if nothing has been done. I can confirm I booted it up. It looks absolutely no different. And so I don't know. I'm glad that they continue to work on this, but personally, I am just I've kind of reached a point of almost anger with the situation because um, and also their tweet here. Let me pull it up. Let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, while
It
you pull that
says,
up, I guess you already got it, so go ahead.
yeah, I got it. Let me read it real quick. Let's see. We will continue to investigate reported graphical issues regarding shimmering, sharpening, and screen saturation. I don't know. I know that they're working hard over there, but the sentiment around this from their perspective kind of gives me the vibe that they don't take it seriously. Like, what do you mean the reported graphical issues? Like, boot up your own game, you know? You're telling me that at your studio you can't pull up this game and tell me what it looks like? I don't know. I just don't like that it feels they're operating almost as if this is some obscure issue that people are writing in with and they have to like locate it or try to duplicate it. That's not the case. Like, this is a pretty widespread issue. Here we are, nearly a month after release, and I'm just starting to lose hope that this is going to get fixed anytime soon, if ever. I don't know what the core
Mm,
issue is here, but they don't seem to
I
have
think
the answers.
I think they'll fix it. I think to me, so I agree with the frustration. To me, the fact that they haven't fixed this, like this has been their top priority issue for several weeks now, and it's been at the top of their patch notes for the past 3 patches. To me, what that says is that these issues were larger than a small fix, which kind of takes me back to the whole thing of like, could this game have used a couple more months before launching? Probably. It sucks to wait for something you want, but it would have been so much better for this game if it had launched in a playable state for more people, because it looks pretty good on my TV, especially in resolution mode. We've talked about this, but I would like the performance in performance mode to work well, ideally, and I would like it to work for most people, not just like a handful of devices that happen to run it okay. And so to me, this just speaks to the fact that like they launched it earlier than they should have, like by probably at least a couple of months. We're about three and a half weeks in since the game launched, and they still haven't resolved this issue. That seems like a large issue, and I think they have good intentions. I'm glad they're working hard. They've been very communicative about the things they are fixing. So I mostly don't have an issue with that. I think the bigger problem is just that they were willing to release the game in the state it was in, knowing that they had to have known that there was a month plus worth of fixing for some of these core issues. I do agree that saying the word reported versus not does feel maybe a bit uh, pedantic, in the sense that like these
It
issues are
feels like you're trying to
pervasive.
separate yourself a little bit from this ever apparent issue, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, oh man, I just lost my thought as you were talking about this, but let me see if I can find it really quick. It does fix several. There's, not to beat a dead horse here because we've been complaining about this for weeks at this point, but as far as the patch notes, there are certain quest fixes, UI fixes, graphical fixes, and performance fixes as well. Some improvements to photo mode. But yeah, my thoughts gone. So
Yeah.
we'll go ahead
I,
and move on. I Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like the level of communication we get from them. Like, I wish we saw this from FromSoft because I love Elden Ring. Elden Ring might be in my top 3 games of all time, and I've only put about 10 hours into it. I'm trying to go slow because I would love for them to touch up the graphics and performance before I experience too
Yeah,
much
we'll
more of
see
it.
about that.
But I can't stop myself from playing because
Uh,
it is fantastic. But I wish we got some more communication from them about like some of the specifics of what they're working on. And I feel like Gorilla's done a pretty good job here. I wish they could give us a sense of timing for these. I wish they could say,
you
we think that the visual flickering issues that you're seeing, the performance issues, we think this is going to take us a month or two. Because then at least we
yeah,
know, okay, I'm not going to be sitting every single week. These patches, they're in Amsterdam, for us these patches are going live at like 3-4 in the morning, and sometimes I'm awake and I
yeah,
shouldn't be, but I'll be up and I'll be like, oh, checking it, and it's I would rather just know that I really shouldn't expect this until a certain point. But the communication's great, the team's working hard, so I do appreciate that. I think that is commendable, and I wish some other studios like FromSoft were doing a better job of that. But at the end of the day, I think it's just the industry seems to be trending towards this thing where even great games they're just released too early, and we all just kind of put up with it. I don't know what the solution is. That just seems to be
yeah.
where we're
You
at.
kind of telepathically helped me get my thought back because you touched on it a lot.
That was
Although
intentional.
ironically, yes, ironically, I was going to say, um, I feel like there. You say the communication's been great. I feel like it's been they've frequently communicated without saying much of anything about this issue. You know, they haven't really said much. They continue to say we're looking into it, and like you said, I would appreciate some more information as to, we don't need to know how the how the food is prepared, so to speak, but like some sort of information about like this is what we're dealing with. This is a bigger issue than we thought. We're really having to dig into this. It's going to take a little bit longer instead of just we continue to look into these reported issues.
I think
That
that's mostly
feels
it. Give us a sense of timing for the big
yeah.
issues that
Give
we
us a
have to get
sense
out.
of timing and a sense of scale for what this is going to require. Um, so, anyways, hopefully someday, man. I really do want to play this game, but right now it's just um, on my TV, my setup. It's not in a state where it's enjoyable still. So
Someday you will love this game, Levi. Someday.
I'm gonna need some time to get over this launch. Story number 6, God of War show may be in the works, which is let's say that's not terribly surprising based on Sony's trajectory
Yeah.
recently. Um, so let's see here. You can go ahead and take this one.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think this is a continued trajectory. Sony has they literally have their own logo intro just for their studio adaptation properties, which I think speaks to the fact that
Yeah,
they're going to be going hard, and that it makes sense. Part of me is like, I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to get new properties, either whether it's video games or TV. But the other part of me is like, will I watch a Last of Us show? Yes. Will I watch a show that is God of War? Very likely. So this is kind of cool. It looks like it's coming to us from the creators and executive producers Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they're the guys who did The
Ostby.
Expanse. The Expanse show is pretty good if you want to check it out. The books are
Oh,
good too.
really? Huh.
Yeah, it's a good show. The books are good, which books aren't related here. Just throwing that out there, but that's promising to me because the Expanse is a cool show, and it's also coming from executive producer and showrunner Rafe Judkins, who is the guy leading the Wheel of Time show, which it has seen mixed reception. There's some things I think that show did pretty well, and there are some things I think it dropped the ball on. So it looks like a talented group of people with these adaptations. Even with talented people, it's such a grab bag of like, will this be good for so many different reasons. Hollywood's a very complicated entity, but in general, I think this is exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, based on where it sounds like this is at, like they've selected some creative talent. Nothing is really locked in. The way Hollywood works, it could be years before we see this. So, I guess stay tuned.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think we're headed for. I mean, clearly Sony is trying to make this a focus. They really want to um, broaden their portfolio, which is kind of ironic because Sony Pictures is already a thing. But I do think we're headed towards um, a world where our video game adaptations into TV shows and movies are more good than they've been in the past,
more
right?
better,
Like
more better,
more
good.
better, more betterer.
More better, more good. New tagline.
Yeah, I think the quality is going to become more respectable, and video games are really going to be a big part of TV and movies for the next decade, kind of in the way that Marvel has reigned supreme over the past, 10 to 15 years, almost closing in on it now. So yeah, we'll see. This, I mean, could be cool.
If we get more things that are the level of quality of Arcane, the like League of Legends adaptation, I'll be happy.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Is there news on this? This is live action.
You know what? I don't think it actually said. I assumed it was live action.
Okay. I guess that was my assumption too, but
yeah, we'll link the Deadline article in the notes here for this video, so check it out. You can read a little bit more and I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. Will it be good? Will it not? But there you have it. 6 stories to keep you updated on the world of video games for this week in gaming. Thanks for sticking with us this entire time. We appreciate you. Remember, you can find us and support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/neverlag. Thank you for watching on YouTube or listening wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you next time on Neverlag.
Bye, everyone.